In this session, we will be learning about present value of annuity due. Annuity due is annuity due at the beginning of the period. So, ordinary annuity means that your annuity is due at the end of a particular year. But in this annuity due, annuity is due at the beginning of the year. For example, if you say you are investing rupees 5000, okay, at the beginning of every year for 4 years, right? So this 5000 you will be investing at the beginning of year 1, this 5000 at beginning of year 2, this 5000 at beginning of year 3, and this 5000 at beginning of year 4. This such type of annuities are known as annuity due. Okay, so in this what we need to do is we need to find out present value of all these annuities at this point, that is at the beginning of year 1. Okay, value of all this annuity, this is nothing but present value of this annuity due. Now let's understand how to calculate present value of annuity due. Okay, so here is an example. Mr. A is introduced with a scheme wherein he will receive rupees 20,000 at the beginning of every year for 3 years. Rate of interest is 10% per annum. For this scheme, he need to invest amount equal to present value of rupees 20,000 receivable at the beginning of each year for 3 years, discounted at 10% per annum. So if you see this example, this is exactly similar to the example which we had seen to calculate present value of an ordinary annuity. Okay, but only difference is in that example, the Mr. A was to receive rupees 20,000 at the end of every year for 3 years. Here he will be receiving rupees 20,000 at the beginning of every year for 3 years. So if you see, this is an example of an annuity due. Okay, so we will draw a number line. Okay, 3 years. So rupees 20,000 at the beginning of year 1, 20,000 at the beginning of year 2, 20,000 at the beginning of year 3. So beginning of year 2 is nothing but end of year 1, and this is end of year 2, and here beginning of year 1 is now current time. Okay, so what we are going to find, we need to find value of all this annuity at this point of time. So this is nothing but present value of all these annuities. Okay, so let's prepare a table first. Okay, year 1, year 2, year 3. Okay, and all this is beginning of the year, beginning of year 1, 2 and 3. Amount is 20,000, 20,000 and 20,000. Okay, now if you see beginning of year 1, if you want to calculate what is the value of this 20,000 receivable at the beginning of year 1, beginning of year 1 is nothing but now. Okay, that is present value only. So to calculate the present value of 20,000 receivable at the beginning of the year 1, it will be the same. There is no discounting for this. So I'll put it as 1 because the amount will remain the same. Then beginning of year 2. So if you want to calculate the present value of the amount which is receivable at the beginning of year 2, 20,000, you need to discount it by 1 year, right? Because beginning of year 2 means end of year 1. So it will be 100 divided by 110, the whole raised to 1. That is nothing but 0.9091. Okay, then year 3, that is beginning of the year 3, that means it's end of year 2. So it will be 100 divided by 110 the whole raised to 2, that is nothing but 0.8264. Okay, so if you multiply this by 20,000, it will be 20,000. This will come to 18,181.82. This will come to 16,528.93, and the total will come to 54,710.75. So this is a present value of rupees 20,000, which will be receivable at the beginning of every year for 3 years and discounted at the rate of 10% per annum. Okay, so instead of calculating this individually, what you can do is you can calculate total of this, okay, which is 2.7355. okay, and then you can directly multiply this by 20,000 since the amount that is receivable will be the same. Okay, so you will get 54,710.75. Now how to calculate this on the calculator, we'll see that. Okay, what you have to do is 100 divided by 110, okay, into then m plus equal to mr, and then you have to add 1 to it. That plus 1 is for this year. Okay, there is no discounting for the amount received at the beginning of year 1. Okay, since it is received today itself. So if you see this, then you will get this 2.7355. Some calcs will work in this way. In some other case, what you need to do is 100 divided by 110 into m plus mr plus 1. Okay, so see which method is applicable to your calculator, and then accordingly you can find this annuity factor of 2.7355. so it is very important to understand what type of annuity it is, whether it's at the beginning of the year or it is at the end of the year. Your ordinary annuity is usually at the end of the year. When nothing is given, it's at the end of the year. Okay, but when it is given at the beginning of year, or when the term annuity due or immediate annuity is used, then it's always at the beginning of the year. Now we will see how to calculate this annuity due at the beginning of the year using formula. Okay, so now let's see the same example using the annuity formula. Mr. A is introduced with a scheme wherein he will receive rupees 20,000 at the beginning of the year, every year for 3 years. Rate of interest is 10% per annum. For this scheme, he needs to invest amount equal to present value of 20,000 receivable at the beginning of each year for 3 years, discounted at 10% per annum. Okay. Now, the formula for annuity due is present value of annuity due. Okay, I'll put it as annuity due AD. Okay, 1 plus r the whole raised to n minus 1 upon r into 1 plus r the whole raised to n. Okay, so if you see, this is your formula for ordinary annuity. Okay, so formula for annuity due is you have to multiply this formula with 1 plus r. That's it. Okay, wherein PVAD is present value of annuity due, n is number of years, r is rate of interest, and a is your annuity amount. Okay, so let's try to put this. A here is 20,000, correct? Then n is 3 years, r is 10%, that is 10 by 100, so that is 0.10, right? And now let's solve this. So present value of annuity due is equal to 20,000 into 1 plus 0.10 the whole raised to 3 minus 1 upon 0.10 and 1 plus 0.10 the whole raised to 3, okay, into 1 plus 0.10, okay, that is nothing but 20,000 into 1.1 the whole raised to 3 minus 1 divided by 0.10 into 1.1 the whole raised to 3 into 1.1, okay. So that comes to 20,000 into 1.3310 minus 1 divided by 0.10 into 1.3310 whole into 1.1. So that comes to 20,000 into 0.3310 divided by 0.1331 into 1.1. So this comes to 20,000 into 2.7355. So that is nothing but 54,710.75. Now if you look at this, it will be same as whatever we had calculated earlier. Here 54,710.75. So you can either calculate it in this way or the other way which we had seen earlier, okay. In this formula you have to remember that present value of annuity due, the formula is same as ordinary annuity, just have to multiply it by 1 plus r. So this was everything about annuity due, present value of annuity due, that is annuity which needs to be paid or which is received at the beginning of year. Thank you.